town has a ghost story that's been passed down through the generations. But what if those legends were true? My name is Miranda Young, and I'm the Ghost Biker.
Hey everybody, happy Thursday night, happy Christmas, almost happy New Year. Welcome to the show. You're watching Shop Talk Live from the Ghost Biker Garage, and I am your host, the Ghost Biker. Thank you guys so much for tuning in tonight. I know a lot of the time we might take some time off between the month of December and January, and even between Christmas and New Year's, but this year, we had such a great season 5 and just wanted to carry that momentum on into the new year. So thank you guys so much for choosing to spend your time here watching the show. I know that there's a lot that people are doing right now, you know, with football games and all kinds of stuff going on, but we're happy that you're here because we have a very, very good guest tonight. I'm super excited. He's stayed up exceptionally late to be here on the show with us. And so, if you have any questions for myself or tonight's guest, please feel free to put those in the chat room. And if you don't mind, put them in all caps, just in case, I don't miss what you're saying as we're going through the conversation. So just want to say hello to a couple people over here in the chat room. Hello to my business partner, Dr. Sumner. Hello to Miss Susan Purcell, Mr. Scott Horn, Joe Shortridge, David Anderson, Kimberly Horn. Thank you guys so much for tuning in tonight. Just want to, give a little bit of business before we get to tonight's guest. We've got some really big and exciting things going on at the historic Scott County Jail that's coming up. We are going to be doing some different things in January. We're going to be actually having some special hours and some special events that are primarily going to be night events. So it is going to affect daytime hours and that sort of thing. Plus, we've been working on our schedule. So we're going to actually be having some special announcements about that coming up this Sunday night at, I believe I can't remember if it's 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. Eastern time. Thank you, Dr. Sumner. She's got the address here, historicscottcojail.com. You'll actually be able to watch the live announcements on the Facebook page and also on the YouTube channel under Historic Scott County Jail. But we're going to be covering some of the interesting things that we've been doing. Both Dr. Sumner and I have a podcast on there called The Jailhouse Informant that we did take a little break from back in the summertime, and we never were able to pick that back up just because things got so super busy. But we are picking that up starting this Sunday night. We're going to be announcing some really cool things that's going on at the historic Scott County Jail. So also another thing, we will be giving details about this tomorrow, but we want you to spend New Year's Eve with us. We're going to be doing a special live investigation from the historic Scott County Jail. Dr. Sumner and I will both be there. We're going to be bringing out some of our equipment. It's not going to be a super long investigation. I think we're going to keep it to probably an hour and a half, just really kind of see how things go. But we're going to, it'll probably be around 8 or 9 p.m. Eastern time. We will make that announcement tomorrow night. If you would like to tune in with us, watch the live, be our eyes and ears, and also guide us and help us as we go and investigate the historic Scott County Jail. Spend a little bit of time New Year's Eve with us. We're not gonna hoard into the midnight hour or anything like that, because we know people have parties and some people still like to watch the TV celebrations and that sort of thing. So grab a drink, sit down in front of the computer there or your phone and ring in an early New Year with us at the historic Scott County Jail on this coming Saturday night. We thought it might kind of be a fun way to do that. And as Dr. Sumner said, you can find a lot of information about that on historicscottcojail.com or under the Scott County Jail or Historic Scott County Jail Facebook page as well. So, that's some of the big things we've got going on. Like I said, we've got a lot of big things going on this January that we will be talking about soon. Also, Ghost Biker Explorations and Ghost Biker Garage Live. It is going to be continuing on through the new year. Got some really cool stuff planned for January. Got guests completely booked up through that month. Maybe even be doing a couple live things with that as well that we'll be announcing soon. So just stay tuned for all of that. I'm going to go ahead and bring tonight's guest on because I was recently on his podcast. You guys probably heard me talk about it last week and also saw the post. You could listen to the past episode, and I hope you did. If you didn't, I hope you'll go back. It is the Life of Elvis podcast. But this guy, he's very fascinating, and I really enjoyed chatting with him. I enjoyed chatting with him so much that I wanted to invite him to come back on the show. I mean, this guy, he's got his own podcast. He's a calisthenics athlete and trainer, guitarist, and writer. We're going to talk about all of that and, maybe some of, his thoughts on the paranormal here on this hour. So again, if you have any questions, please feel free to put those in the comments. So I'm going to go ahead and bring my friend Elvis on, who, like I said, he has stayed up very late to come and talk to us. So he's live in Sweden. And so Elvis, welcome. And thank you for coming on the show tonight.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm glad we can do a second round of our conversations.
I know we ended up having a very long conversation and just talked about so many different facets of the paranormal. And I really enjoyed it. I really liked picking your brain because you've got some really interesting theories and you're very well read when it comes to the paranormal.
Thank you. Yeah, but it was a really enjoyable podcast. Definitely one of the best ones I did.
Oh, well, thank you. So go ahead. My intro did not do justice to, everything that you've got going on. So why don't you go ahead and kind of tell us how you got started on this journey of doing, what you're doing with the podcast and, really where you are today.
Where should I start? Well, I always have like a feeling that I'm here to do something else, something different. I didn't for most of my life. Hey, Chris, I didn't really fit in, and I always had a curiosity about what's going on. Because I do think that the most important question one can ask is, what is all this about? Why are we here? How does the universe work? It can take you some crazy rabbit holes, but it's a very important thing to ask. Because if it wasn't of that, none of all the things that we value in our lives won't be here. So it's the most fundamental question we need to ask.
Absolutely. So, so do you feel as though, you've interviewed some amazing guests on your show, and I know you have a variety of topics that you talk about. Have you found that by meeting all of these different people and discussing some of these topics that you've been able to get a clearer answer, or has it just led to more questions?
Well, it sure is really interesting. Yeah. Talking to great people and make friends as well this way. The thing is, at this point, I do think that life is meant to be experienced. It's not necessarily something to figure out at this point. Mm-hmm. But it's just a very interesting thing to ponder about, whether it's the paranormal, UFOs and nature of reality, all that stuff. It's just really fascinating. It's fun to talk about as well. And I'm sure that every piece of information I get, whether it's from a book, from one of my guests, or a friend I end up talking about this stuff, it it always helps. I'm hoping that it moves me closer to the truth, because that's what I'm after at the end of the day. I'm not after beliefs or something that it just happens to be written in a book or something. I want to know what's really going on. Whether it's one thing or the other, it doesn't really matter to me. I just want to know what's going on.
Do you have any theories on the paranormal, as far as like either based on your experiences or based on guests that you've had? Do you have a theory as to what we're potentially dealing with whenever we go and ask these questions and do these investigations?
Mm-hmm. I guess it is accurate to say that at this point no one really knows what's going on entirely. You might see snippets here and there, but it seems to be the case that all these phenomena are somehow related in one way or the other. But I mean the entire UFO phenomenon and ghosts, even psychedelics and all this stuff, it seems to be a connection there. Even cryptids, you know that many of the Sasquatch sightings, for example, happen to be around the places where people do see some UFOs and things like that. So there must be some kind of a correlation going on there. Or even we did mention it on our podcast, West Virginia, Point Pleasant and Mothman and all that. And I remember reading John Keel's book about this. I was probably in my late teens or so, give or take. And no, it must have been earlier, mid-teens probably. And his book is full of, you got this cryptids, the Mothman, whatever that was. Then you have UFOs and potentially beings running around that kind of look like aliens. And there's just a lot of stuff going on. But I think the main thing we need to realize, and things that I've read from all the way from astronomy, astrophysics, to all these scientists would say fringe theories, it led me more to the belief that one thing we need to realize is the nature of reality and of the universe is different than what we thought it was. Obviously, our view of the universe has evolved tremendously over the last, let's say, 200 years, from thinking that the Earth is the center of the universe towards thinking that the Milky Way is the only galaxy that exists, or that our solar system is the only one that exists. Now we know that we are just a speck of dust, pretty much, and there's billions of other Earth-sized planets just within our galaxy, and God knows how many galaxies are out there.
Right.
But the big shift that I think is going to happen soon, and there's already scientists talking about this, is that the way we perceive reality in the universe is that we are separate consciousness, separate beings, tiny, on a big scale, looking out at the ground universe. And science basically tells us if there was no consciousness whatsoever, which according to them, the mainstream belief is just a epiphenomenon, something that our brain just makes like a byproduct. And so if there was no consciousness within the universe would still exist, all the planets and black holes and everything in it, right? And this kind of materialistic reductionist view of the universe, it doesn't really give us much space to work with in terms of the paranormal and things we see, which at this point we do need to admit that whether it's UFOs, telepathy, and other phenomena, like similar phenomena, they are real. There's evidence, and there's great studies. It's all out there for whoever wants to research this. So it doesn't, this kind of view doesn't give us much space for it. You know, like most of the scientists, when you listen to them, you mention any of these topics and they just dismiss it straight away. Right? It just doesn't fit into a model. Now, when we are describing the universe through science, philosophy, or whatever way, we are basically making a model which tries to explain what we see. You know, obviously the model is not the real thing, but if we have a good enough model, it should really explain as much as possible of what we can see. You know, for example, the two big theories of the early 20th century were Einstein's theory of relativity, which explains the movement of big objects with big mass within the universe, you know, planets, galaxies, what have you. On the other hand, you had the quantum mechanics, which explains everything on the subatomic level, very small particles. And to this day, we still don't have a really good grasp on how to combine these. Because, like, for example, you get a black hole, it's super massive, but it's tiny. So that's when both theories break down when you pass through the event horizon. Now, these two models explain a lot of what we see, you know, like gravitational lensing. Einstein predicted years before we actually saw any evidence for it. And with today's telescopes, we've found out that, yeah, it happens, and we can use it, you know. But it still doesn't explain everything that we see.
Right.
Now, some people go as far as say that the missing link that we need to combine both of these theories and come up with some kind of a unified, or maybe like a theory of everything for once, is consciousness, right? Now, that gets me to a point where I was saying earlier that the biggest shift in, hopefully this century, hopefully it's not going to take any longer than that, will be shifting from us being a separate consciousness looking out in the grand universe, which will be here even if we are not here, switching over to thinking, which is something even all the philosophies gave us a hint, is that thinking that the entire universe as we see it, this reality that we perceive right now, all exists within consciousness. Now, it's a big statement to make, but
right,
it definitely explains things way better than the materialistic reductionist worldview. And now this is, I'm not saying that this is how it is. I'm saying that everything that I personally have experienced, read, it led me to this conclusion that this seems to be a better model of the universe. And yeah, I had some of my own experiences which show me that the nature of reality is different from what we've been told and what we perceive like this in this state of consciousness. You know?
So do you believe, that being said, do you believe that there's maybe inner dimensions or other dimensions that maybe are kind of going on, or alternate realities that are going on around us, that maybe that's some of what we're experiencing? Yeah.
Well, there's even in not classical physics, astrophysics, people talk about the multiverse. Sorry. About there being other universes, or even in string theory, for example, or M theory, there used to be this notion that our universe is basically one membrane, and within the entirety of the universe, or whatever is beyond it. Sorry, I've been ill a little bit, so my
You're fine.
Throat is a little bit dry. But I'm glad that I managed to make it to this podcast. So there was this notion that this universe that we perceive is one membrane, and all the particles, which according to a string theory are strings, one-dimensional strings, are basically bound to this membrane, except for gravitons. which can pass through the different separate membranes, and then we can perceive the gravitational effects of things in one membrane in the other one. Now, this will be kind of like a different dimension, different universe that kind of exists like right next to us. Now, it seems like the M theory and string theory, or string theories, there was a dead end, you know. So if you hear someone saying that there's 11 dimensions, it comes from that, and it's probably not correct. But I do think that there are different realities. I remember reading a book from Jeremy Narby. It was really interesting. It's called The Cosmic Serpent. And he's spoken to one ayahuasquero in South America. And he kind of explained it to him that it's kind of like having a radio.
Okay.
You have all these frequencies all the time around you, passing through us right now. All these different stations, broadcasting. But you can only listen to one of them at a time. Depends on how you tune the radio, right? Now, it seems like our brain and consciousness are kind of like this radio. In this state of consciousness, we create reality in a certain way, depending on how we evolved and everything. And it shows us a certain picture of reality, right? And it seems like that what we perceive in this state of consciousness is simply the minimal required for us to survive, right?
Okay.
Because if it see reality as this infinite thing where there's no, when there's no past, present, or future, how would you survive?
Right.
It would get really confusing. So we perceive only things that are necessary for us to physically survive in this reality. Now, it doesn't mean that there's nothing beyond it.
Right.
Right. Now, there's different ways how people can access these different realities.
Okay.
Which doesn't necessarily mean that it's a different universe or like a separate dimension. Seems to be always. Here's the thing: like when I was saying that consciousness is fundamental and the universe exists within it. There's a chance, it's possible that whatever underlies this universe, out of which everything arises in this universe, is, well, first of all, it's consciousness and it's infinite, right? Now, if it's infinite, it means that's everything that has ever been, that can be, everything that ever will be is all there, right? Which will include also different realities than from what we experience. Not saying that that is exactly like that, but it's a possibility. Now, we know that through meditation, the use of psychedelics, hell, even running 100-mile can really change your state of consciousness and can show you a different reality than what we experience right now. Something that's not necessarily necessary for survival, but something that certainly has value. Because in Western society, we value only the state of consciousness that we are in right now, the one that's active, problem solving, and productive in a materialistic way. But it doesn't mean that it's the only one, or that the other states of consciousness have no value. They certainly do, because even if you go into deep meditation or do ayahuasca with a shaman in the rainforest, it can, first of all, it can help you live a more compassionate life, be there for other people. It can help you with whatever problems you are facing in your life. Right? It can generally make your life a lot better. And it can show you things about yourself you wouldn't normally figure out. Right? So there's tremendous value in these states of consciousness in terms of connection with others and the universe itself. Because here in the West, we are super disconnected from what we do, from other people and everything. And past civilizations or indigenous tribes, they knew the value of these states of consciousness. That's why that sorry. That's why they had shamans, they had different rituals, they used psychedelics, they had, all these things. And they played a vital role in people maturing and understanding the universe and just being connected to fellow human beings, right? And that's something I think we really need to incorporate in our culture again. And I can't remember exactly what was the question you asked.
No. I mean that really kind of covers it, because I'm guessing, because there seems to be such a different connection, like what you talked about, like with some of these different cultures, as far as like the meditation and the different things that they do to essentially sort of raise their awareness or raise their consciousness. Do you think that maybe that's why, just in general, we all experience the paranormal very different? Do you think it could be because of our different states of awareness, or do you think that some people are just more connected and that's why they experience some stuff a little more than others?
That's going to be a multitude of reasons, really. First of all, it's culture. So over here, let's say a 7-year-old kid says that they saw a ghost or something that other people can't see, right? You'll say this to their parents or to a teacher. What's the reaction going to be? For most part, it's going to be, oh, you just made this up. It's not real, So I think in the podcast with Didi, we spoke about, or was it with you? I can't remember. About kids being more aware of these things and seeing things. Even recently, I like to ask people whether themselves or some of their friends have ever seen something unexplainable. And most of the time, I get some kind of an interesting answer, to be honest. And I asked a friend of mine recently this. And she apparently, when she was a kid, she saw some kind of a figure, could have been her grandma or grandpa. And obviously, her parents didn't see it, but she did. So it seems like kids, when they are small, or even animals, they can see these things, better than we do. But it seems like the conditioning that comes from going to school and parenting, it shuts it off, right? And the neural connections that we have in our brain, if you don't use it, you're gonna lose it, because throughout puberty and as you go up, the brain basically restructures itself. So, for example, really toddlers and really small kids, they can distinguish faces of chimps. But because they don't encounter chimps late in life, we can't do it really. Not at least not as good, right? So the neural pathways that are there, it's going to disappear. So I think that's what's happening in this case as well, when it comes to seeing other things, not necessarily with your physical eyes. Now, another thing is that I've heard Dean Radin recently, well, not that recently, mention that there's an interesting genetic factor going on here in the West, because it seems like people who don't necessarily experience paranormal experiences in their life, don't see these things, they seem to be the genetic outliers. And it seems to be more of these people seem to be in Western countries, like Europe, North America. Now, there's an interesting reason, and it goes back to Inquisition, witch hunts. That's when it was basically like a it was basically an evolution going on. Natural, not, well, it wasn't natural selection, but it was very selective back then. So if someone did see, especially women, when they did see something paranormal, they were labeled as a witch. They will get burned on stake or something like that, right? So these people were selected and left the gene pool, and who was left with those people who don't see that, well, things that are beyond the normal.
Wow.
So like I said, there's many reasons why some people have lots of paranormal experiences, some people don't.
And they've got a lot of questions over here that we're going to get to here in just a second. I want you guys to let you know that I do see you. So we will get to those here in a second. But I did want to ask, is there a difference like here, here in the United States and where you're at based on the podcast interviews that you've had, also based on other folks in the area that you've spoken with? Do you find that the area that you're in Sweden currently, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you found that in your area that it's as widely accepted as it is here? I know we have a ton of paranormal investigators, thousands of investigators here. And of course, I know we're much bigger, but I know talking to some of my friends in the UK, they don't have the television shows locally like we do, or as many, and they don't have as many investigators. Is this something that's kind of popular in your area, or is it something that's not talked about as much?
I guess when it comes to people talking about this stuff and their views, I think it's not going to be that much of a difference, since basically we live in a globalized society. So the differences are going to be smaller and smaller between countries. Obviously, some people are open to it, some people are not. Mainstream in pretty much every country says that it's nonsense. When it comes to like TV shows, definitely you're on top of, you got a lot more of it going on. That's for sure. There was a hilarious meme that I saw. It was like people with the paranormal, with cryptids, like in Europe. And it was like these people like, oh, you watch such a whimsical creature, let's have some tea together. And there was some gnomes like, yeah, let's do it. And that was like North America, dude, armed to his teeth, military grade equipment, like, this is the last forest you've haunted, you son of a bitch. As this monster there.
Do you all have any, we have a lot of different cryptids in different areas of the country here. Do you all have any specific cryptids in your area that people talk about or go and try to find?
I haven't heard much about that here in Europe in general. I'm sure there was something like that. I mean, over the years, I must have come across something like that, but can't really recollect anything necessarily. No, don't think so.
Okay. I do want to get to some of the questions over here in the chat room. And again, thank you guys for your questions and for your patience here. So Dr. Sumner asks, she says, since you started studying the unexplained, what topic has been the most fascinating to you, i.e. UFOs, paranormal, dreams, etc.? What do you really enjoy talking about or get excited about whenever you have a guest on your show that you're able to talk about?
I think any of these is really freaking great and interesting. I mean, my dad, he was interested in UFOs, so maybe that's one of the reasons why I'm also into this stuff. So UFOs, that has always been, a big topic for me. I love talking about that stuff. Dreams are personally a big thing for me
Yes.
because some of the, let's say, some insights that I had into how reality works do come from the dreams that I had, and they also show me that reality is not as real as we think it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because for example, I still do have precognitive dreams, which seem to be a bit more occur a bit more often these days, because I put myself, over the last year or so into a much better position in every way of my life, physically, mentally, spiritually. So they seem to be a bit more frequent, which also just having a dream and it actually occurs in real life, that really makes you think that what's going on there.
Yeah.
Some of it could be pure chance, but yeah, I don't think so.
And that's,
And
I just want to mention, we've got Dee Dee in the audience here who she was a guest on your show. She's actually here in the audience. And I know you all had a great podcast where she shared, I know she's been on my show talking about dream interpretation, even interpreted a couple of my dreams. And I definitely suggest everyone go and check out that episode that Elvis did with Dee Dee on her dreams. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. Please continue with what you were saying.
That's all. Yeah, that was a great episode. Really enjoyed talking to her. So, aside from precognitive dreams, I had lucid dreams as well, and that was a big one. It just came spontaneously, even though one can train oneself to be able to have these dreams, at least sometimes. I just read this book. It was called Tibetan Yoga of Sleep and Dream, which is a really good book. It showed the Tibetan approach to working with dreams, which is quite different, actually, than from what we have over here. But after that, sometimes it happens that you read something about lucid dreams, it's suddenly next night you have one. Right? Wasn't straight away the next night for me, but I still remember this dream where I was in my I was asleep. Or I had this dream. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was at my grandma's place. It was a big part of my childhood being at her flat, and I was in her living room. I looked at the clock. Already was a bit different, like a digital clock, and I was able to pass through the middle of, more or less, the middle of the room, where there should be a table, mm-hmm. and I realized that I am dreaming. This is a dream. That's what a lucid dream is. Wow. You are dreaming, and within the dream, you realize that you are asleep and dreaming. So I passed closer to a window, which instead of having, two of them, there were three of them, which is different than in real life. A short dream, but that was the first one, and then spontaneously, especially when I just had a nap in the afternoon, because it happens easier when you're in a light sleep, right? Not like 2 a.m. in the morning or something, when you're deep asleep. So I had a few more of these where I was able to look around a bit more. I remember in one dream I was somewhere in the forest, and I looked down at the dirt and at the ground, and you can see so much detail in there.
Wow.
Or in some other case, there was this guy I used to go to school with. I looked at his face, and it was, I'm telling you, when you wake up from a normal dream, it's a fading memory. It's, like something, it resembles something you experienced a few years ago or so, a few months ago. So it's fading and seems very hazy. You sometimes struggle to remember what happened there. But when you are within the dream and you look around, it's indistinguishable from what we are experiencing right now.
Mm-hmm.
So that really got me thinking, like, what's actually real, you know?
Right.
Because everyone likes to use this use this word. Oh, it's not real. This is real, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But what is real? And fact of the matter is that we don't really know what's real. Even what we are experiencing now, it's just your brain projects into the outside world at least as much as it perceives. You know, it's a construct.
Mm-hmm.
And when you are dreaming, your brain basically uses the same processes to build another reality. Now, I heard someone say recently that, and a really good point, that nature gave us a hint about nature of reality in the form of dreams. Because within a dream, it seems like you are a separate being, separate consciousness looking out at the outside world, right?
Okay.
The world of the dream. Like you're separate from whatever you're seeing there. But when you step back and look at what's really going on, everything that you see is just within your consciousness, within your brain, with your mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that seems to be exactly what's going on with this reality as well.
So what like are your... Oh, sorry, go on.
It's like the Taoists say the human body is the miniature of the universe, right? Mm-hmm. So the problem was that, just like within the dream, you think you are a separate being experiencing some kind of external reality. The fact of the matter is that you are just consciousness experiencing itself. And that seems to be the same case with the universe as a whole.
That's fascinating. So, so looking at it that way and speaking about dreams, what's your thoughts on astral projection? Do you think that, do you think that it's something people really can do? And have you ever yourself done that?
I've heard about it. Maybe at some point I've tried it, something like that. But somehow with this, even with lucid dreams, I'm just never consistent enough to be able to do it. Maybe it'll change at some point. Still got plenty of time to do all sorts of things.
That's true. That's true. And we've got some great conversation. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it could be definitely possible. I mean, even if you look at the other phenomena, like, for example, what's it called? Remote viewing.
Yes.
That might be somehow linked to it, or remote viewing basically shows that, just like quantum physics tells us that the universe is non-local, which is contradictory to what we experience in daily lives. Remote viewing shows us, which, by the way, the CIA had a program running for decades, and it was successful, right? So it really exists. Given, like, for example, Ingo Swann, he observed the rings of Jupiter years before we had the first probes actually discovering them.
Wow.
So that shows that you can perceive things that are way beyond your senses, and not just distant things, but also things distant in time, which also is a bit like, what's really going on here? Because even in the CIA project, they, for example, observed a place somewhere in the States, can't remember where it was, and dude described something like water towers, or some kind of big at least two big tanks of water.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, they actually found the place, the target, and but there were no water towers there. So I was like, okay. But turns out in the 1930s there were pictures of them. So the person remote viewing the place saw the place how it looked like decades earlier.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. So it does seem to point to, well, time is a big issue. Again, we don't know really what it is and how it works.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems to be also just like another construct of our minds to be able to make sense of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like the real reality which underlies the universe, out of which everything arises, that there is no time. Just like in religions or Christianity, they would say God is infinite, eternal, and all that. Or if you go to heaven and live there forever. But the idea is more like the way people imagine it. It's like time going on forever, right? But it seems like that's not the case. It's no time whatsoever. If you, for example, if an electron would have consciousness, well, no, a photon, right? That's what I was talking about. If a photon was conscious,
Okay.
it would experience everything all at once, no time whatsoever, because it travels at exactly at the speed of light. As we know, the closer you go to the speed of light, time slows down. Obviously, something that has mass cannot really reach it. Speed of light, but photons do travel at the speed, so technically it would experience no time whatsoever, right? So it might be that everything exists all at once, past, present, future, everything, in whatever underlies the universe. And I do think that thing is eternal. It's it's always been, it always will be. It contains everything, and it's basically our consciousness. We power it. It's inseparable.
And I mean, it makes sense.
Sorry.
No, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, one more thing that I need to point out. One can actually experience it for itself, for themselves. It's not just like some kind of a philosophical question or something that, it's just far out there. You can't figure it out, because that's what religions did, that they put all these books, dogmas, and churches and everything between you as a person and the actual experience of the divine, or whatever, is the basis of reality, where you can go directly to a source and actually experience these things, for, like I was saying, through different states of consciousness. Just the fact that our brain is capable of these things, and we know it is, it shows that, like I said earlier, there's value in it. And I've experienced it myself as well. Some small snippets, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it just makes sense in the greater explanation of things. And I pulled up Tommy G's comment talking about being fascinated by consciousness aspects of the paranormal, and to me, it ties everything together. And he also adds, it seems to tie in quantum physics as well. It really seems to kind of work as an explanation to a lot of the different things that we are experiencing when you really look at it and drill down like that. Let's see. Oh, I know, like I said, I'm scrolling.
Consciousness is the greatest mystery of them all. And we know pretty much nothing about it, at least scientifically, really. I can't even prove that you're conscious, or vice versa, at this point.
Well, and that's, I mean, we all have different realities of how things are, the way we experience life, the way we interpret things, the way that we interpret the conversation that we're having back and forth with somebody. That's, my reality is different than your reality, of just how we look at things. So, I mean, yeah, why not? Let's see. Christy also asks, she says, have you yourself had any unexplained experiences?
Depends how you class it, I guess. The closest to like some kind of a paranormal ghost type of thing that I've experienced I think I've told you about it. And this one time when me and my parents lived at well, technically it was my grandma, but I've never really, saw her before for many reasons. So when we were at her place, it seems like she was a downright evil person. I don't say it about many people, but she was. And there was things happening. They were like, what the hell is going on? Things breaking apart. My mom fell on the stairs and cut her knee open. Then there was this thing with the light bulb. We had this big chandelier, and my dad, as we were moving out, he was taking it down because he was an electrician. It was like, obviously I'm not going to leave just live wires hanging off the ceiling or something. So he put a light bulb on it and, screwed a light bulb on it. And as he was doing it, I was standing underneath him. And suddenly the light bulb just fell in his hand with everything. And then we looked at the wires, and it literally looked like someone just cut through them.
Oh, wow.
Like, I was literally looking at it when it happened. But in that case, I do think there was more like sorry, this evil and this bad thoughts coming from that person, my mom's mom. That's that. Then obviously I had these dreams, even like I remember getting some kind of information during a dream, and there was one where somehow I like was maybe telepathic connection with my ex's sister. So dreams were, like I said, a big thing for me. And then I had some experiences with psychedelics, which also really showed me that there's more to life and more to reality than we think.
Yeah. I know there's a few folks here in the chat room that I know that I met through the Jess Rogie show, and she's talked about that as well. Fascinating episodes on that, and just really the consciousness of that. I know you and I you were talking about some of the books and studies about, how they were linking that with the reaction and linking it with paranormal experiences.
Yeah, all these things seem to be, like I was saying earlier, somehow connected in one way or the other, including the psychedelic experience. I personally haven't met any entities, because, but it does happen, especially when someone smokes DMT, which is the most potent psychedelic of them all, which also each one of us has in the brains, right? And turns out we all have it in really large amounts in our brains as well, comparable to serotonin and dopamine. So it must play a really big role in the way we construct reality.
Right.
And that's the most potent psychedelic of them all, which is absolutely crazy. Like
and it's wild that we actually have a natural amount of that.
Yeah, exactly. Like Taz McKenna used to say, everyone's holding. Right? Or even in the plant kingdom, it's everywhere. And it's no surprise because it's only 2 enzymatic steps away from tryptophan, which is a amino acid found everywhere, literally.
Yeah. Turkey, cherries, lots of things. Yeah.
Yeah. And now, I think someone even suggested, because when you smoke DMT, I never really broke through with it. So I've only seen some geometrical patterns which are quite beautiful in and of themselves. But when someone breaks through, it's this other reality. And it's just so freaking alien to what we see in here. And one meets what appears to be separate intelligences there. These gestures and self-transforming machine elves, again, like Taz McKenna called them. Now we don't know exactly what they are, But I remember, I think I told you about this in the 90s when Rick Strassman was doing his studies on DMT. It was some of the first studies, well, definitely the first one since the 60s or 70s, which managed to, go through.
Mm-hmm.
So he was basically injecting people with DMT, and it's like, let's see what happens, right?
Wow.
And yeah, even he said like it might have been a little bit reckless now looking back, but it's still some of the results were super interesting because the tendency of scientists is just to say, oh yeah, you just had an hallucination. That's also what I've been told when I was a kid. You hallucinate on psychedelics and stuff like that. But there are people who experience that, like, no, that was not a hallucination. That was more real than real, right? And it is super, super real, all this. And in one case, this person appeared on in some kind of room. It's very technological, and all these beings might be, I'm not quite sure exactly, but might have looked alien-like, like a gray, maybe. But they said, like, we're so glad that they found this technology now we can actually communicate with each other.
Oh, wow.
It's such a strange thing. Even Graham Hancock said that when he did ayahuasca, that one time he did encounter something that looked like a gray alien. And if you look at the paintings of Pablo Amaringo, who used to be an ayahuasquero, he basically painted the stuff he saw on ayahuasca, which is basically like an orally active form of DMT. You mix DMT in one plant with something that has an MAO inhibitor, so that when you take it orally, you actually trip on it, right? Except with ayahuasca, you then have an experience for hours rather than for 10 minutes, like when you smoke it. And it's quite a different experience. But anyway, Pablo Amaringo, he painted the stuff that he saw. And in many cases, you can see things like UFOs and stuff like that on his paintings.
Interesting.
So that's very interesting. Now, we still need to figure out whether these entities won encounters of us on DMT, whether they are actually some kind of a alien, intelligence, or whether they are just something that lives in our collective unconscious, or I don't know, power of the person that's tripping. We don't know exactly. But I've heard someone say that the fact that everything seems so geometrically intricate when you're in the DMT realm, it might be because that reality has more than 3 spatial dimensions. So that when we perceive it like that, it appears to be all these geometric forms and everything. So who knows?
It's an interesting theory.
Yeah, sure is.
So switching gears just a little bit, Ronnie Anderson says, I'm all about the paranormal, but being a fellow musician, I want to know what style and genre of music Elvis plays. Are you in a band?
Cool. Well, I play. Well, right now I've got like 4 albums in making. One of them is finished, and they all vary in style, but it's all metal music, quite heavy. The first one is kind of a bit more melodic, kind of like doom metal, Paradise Lost style. Then I've got one that's gonna be black metal, like what we have over here in the north, well, especially more on the Norwegian side.
Yes.
Yeah. Then, but most of it probably gonna be like melodic death metal, that kind of style.
Well, I've actually got your Spotify pulled up. Would you mind if I played just a little bit of one of your songs?
Sure, go for it.
It's got
So far I've only released one song.
A Reason to Stay.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if you're okay with that, I'll play just a
Go
little
for
bit.
it.
I love European death metal, so
Yeah,
I
cool.
was checking out some of your stuff there that you got. So yeah, we'll play a little bit of some of Elvis's music right here. Let me get this keyed up. Hopefully it'll play okay. Me.
Maybe skip to a later part of the song.
That's beautiful, Elvis.
Thank you.
That is very nice. I yeah, got a lot of great compliments over there.
Yeah, so thanks a lot, guys.
Do
Appreciate it.
you compose your own music?
Yeah, everything that you hear there in that song, it's written note by me, all
Wow.
instruments. But I only played the guitar in that song. Well,
Wow.
guitars.
You'll definitely have to keep us posted when those albums come out, because I know I want to, like I said, I love that style of music, and judging by the comments there, we've got a lot of fellow guitarists and a lot of folks that really enjoy that. And you're kind of there in the birthplace of death metal, black metal type music, isn't it? In Sweden, the
Yeah.
birthplace of like the melodic
Well,
death metal.
melodic death metal, yeah, definitely. I mean, death
Yeah.
metal comes more from the States, bands like Death and Morbid Angel, they started. But here in Sweden, yeah, we got great melodic death metal bands, like In Flames and At the Gates.
Yeah.
On the other side of the border, you can go, black metal, which is also pretty good, some of the bands. But yeah, one of the reasons why I like this place.
I like the melodic sound of it. You've got the heavy, but I mean, there's just something about that nice melody that goes along with it. It's almost like that soft yet heavy. Love it.
Yeah, that's what I'm aiming for with my music. I do like heavy music, but I do want it to have some more depth to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Not just noise,
Yeah.
and I mean but that's absolutely beautiful. And
I only made this song in like 2 weeks, from like
really?
the first note until I had it all recorded. So that was really quick for me.
Well, I mean, because it's actually, to me, and I mean, I play piano. I don't play guitar. I'd love to, but I mean, it actually seems like it's quite complex, that the style that you do. I mean, it seems like there's a lot of layers to it.
Yeah, I mean, when you listen to the song, I basically played 2 rhythm guitars, but they play the same thing. It's just one channel on one side, one on the other. Technically, it's just like one guitar, one part they play. On top of it, you got the lead guitar and you got harmony as well. So yeah, this song has quite a few layers. And at the very end, you got also strings, like 2 violins, cello, viola, and acoustic guitar. So I kind of put like everything into this one. It's got heavy parts, it's got a nice melody, faster, slower parts.
Very nice. And I also just want to kind of mention, since you had mentioned it in your bio, wanted to pull up this video as well. Let me bear with me just 1 second. Like I said, you're quite the athlete too. Let's talk a little bit about that. You've got some let's see here. Some impressive videos out there, and you were talking about the let's see, what was it? I need to pull apparently I can only pull one thing up at a time here. But so I mean, check out this work. I was looking for the pull-up video, because you were talking, you did, what was it? How many in 6 hours?
2,000. I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yes, I do.
Okay. Yeah, I thought I'd seen a video where you were doing some of your pull-ups and stuff, and but that may have been on Instagram.
I'm sure you've got something somewhere. It was back in 2019 where I did those 2,000 pull-ups in 6.5 hours or so. I was meant to do only 1,000, but I did twice as much. It was for charity, and this year I actually did 3,000 push-ups as well, back in March.
Wow. So you must have go through a pretty extensive training schedule.
Yeah, I do train a lot. I started when I was 12 with martial arts. I saw Jean-Claude Van Damme and those guys. Later on, Bruce Lee. I was like, oh man, I want to be like those guys. So that from the very start, I started doing some calisthenics. But after I moved to the UK in 2015, that's when I started focusing more on calisthenics, less on martial arts, and that's why I do it. Up to this day, mostly calisthenics. But now that I've got a gym membership for once, I don't usually go to a gym really. I do go on the punching bag still. It's fun. It's a good workout as well.
Yeah, and talk about, clearing your mind and grounding yourself and all that. What a great way to do that.
Yeah.
So what do you, I know we're a little bit over our hour here, and I know it's extremely late there where you are. What do you have coming up that that you would like to promote, and also let folks know where they can go and excuse me, and find out more, listen to your podcast. While you're saying that, I'm going to also pull up your site that you've got here.
Yeah, so people can find me. I'm mostly on, I guess Instagram is my main platform of social media. Don't like Facebook that much, but I'm on there as well. Then, that's my, it's kind of like a link tree, but it's different. I gave you this link, so through that one, you can find everything that I do. And you've got my podcast, which is on Spotify, Rumble, YouTube, Anchor. I guess that's about it.
And your book. Yeah.
Yes, I've got it too. Well, science fiction book between the years of. Yeah, it took me over 2 years to write it. Then by the time I've published it was already 2021.
Oh wow.
It's like a science fiction novel. I wasn't even planning on publishing it, but once I had like 100 pages done, I was like, might as well. It was a really nice creative outlet, and we enjoyed writing it. So you can find it on my link tree or on my website, lifeofelvis.com. On the website, you find everything as well. And my music should be on all major platforms. Right now, I'm not doing much with it. I might do like a cover soon.
Oh, okay.
Fun song. On my Instagram, I got shorter videos, playing things like Ozzy Osbourne and stuff like that. So I might do one like that. But I am pretty busy with stuff because I'm also doing a course right now. I'm working full time. Obviously got my podcast, so I've got a lot going on at any time. So with the music, hopefully after February, I'm going to jump back on it and record some more stuff. Like I said, I've got this freaking album finished and lying around, which needs to be, recorded and everything. And I'm planning on visiting the States for the first time in February.
Nice.
We're looking forward to that.
Very cool. You is there any particular area you're hitting? Are you hitting East Coast, West Coast?
Yeah, San Diego.
That's nice. Where I'm gonna be. Very nice. Well, I wish you safe travels on that. And you'll have to definitely keep us posted on how it goes through pictures.
Yeah, will do.
And guys, we've got Elvis's site that I had just pulled up. There's the link to it here in the comments. We also have it in the show notes. And, guys, go check him out. Check out his Instagram page, because I know he does some great posts leading up to his podcast that he has. He shares his, workouts, music, that sort of thing. Very interesting page. You guys want to check that out. And also, go check out Life of Elvis podcast, because he's had some great guests on there. I know I've been on there. Dr. Sumner's been on there. Dee Dee's been on there. Preston Dennett. Lot of interesting folks, and you'll get some great information when you watch that. Now, how often does your show come out, Elvis?
You see, I usually aim for once every 2 weeks. Sometimes it changes. Now I'm gonna have a bit of a break for a few weeks. But after New Year, I'm definitely jumping back on it, and gonna do some podcasts also whilst I'm in the States. With my co-host as well. So, yeah. In fact, that's going to be probably the first episode that I'm going to do actually in person whilst I'm there. So,
very cool. Very cool. Well, that just gives people time to go and binge watch the episodes that you've got out now.
Yeah, go for it. It's more than 20 episodes. So, yeah, I got, like I said, stuff about paranormal, alien abductions. That was really fun. But also, I got one about relationships. I had people who went through severe addictions and managed to, get their life together and overcome it. Cool. Overcoming depression, training, and stuff like that.
Yeah, a lot of inspirational people and topics that you can learn a lot from, and just a great variety of people from what I've found. So, thank you, Elvis. I really appreciate you staying up late, coming on here live. I know we talked about pre-recording, but I'm really glad that you came on live, because I know that I really enjoy. I have a great group that watches the show, that participates and asks questions and everything. So, so I thank you for that, and I thank you all over in the chat room for all of your questions. I hope I didn't miss anyone. If I did, I'll make sure that I go back, and if you ask a question that we didn't cover, we'll make sure that we do address that. So, thank you all so much. Hope everyone has an amazing new year. Please join Dr. Sumner and I at the historic Scott County Jail Facebook page on Saturday night. We will be announcing the time where we'll be doing that live investigation. So ring in the new year with us then. Also, be sure to tune in on Sunday. And then that way we will be we'll be starting back the Jailhouse Informant podcast, which will be making announcements about January. And then join us next Thursday night here on the Ghost Biker Explorations Facebook page, YouTube channel, and LinkedIn, where we will have Dr. Harry Milner on. And this is going to be a very interesting conversation. Dr. Sumner introduced me to him. He is an author, and he is also hope I'm saying it right, because I don't have my notes in front of me, but I believe he's a doctor of, he does forensics. And so he's put some books out where he does some, here's a comment here. Yeah, he does forensics, and his book kind of details some of that. So we'll be talking about all of that next week on Ghost Biker Garage Live. So until then, see you all Saturday night, and also Happy New Year.